and I'm just going to break down what it is, what it includes, what we've tried to put together with this thing, and see who all is interested in kicking the tires and horsing around with it. So what we see 360 as is, quite frankly, the most comprehensive managed WordPress hosting solution on the market today. And it's really just the next extension of what we view as a hosting partnership between GridPane and people like yourselves, serious WordPress agencies, developers, and freelancers. And so really quick, for those of you that don't already know, I'm Patrick Gallagher. I'm the co-founder and CEO of GridPane. That is my wonderful wife, who you can't really see it, but somehow the wool is just securely over her eyes still. Yeah, so what we're going to be covering today, what 360 is, exactly what's included, how you can get started with this service ASAP. Specifically, we want to talk about some plan changes that we're going to make to all of support across the entire platform, and why it is that we're rolling this out. Specifically, new capabilities, new levels of access to us and to our team, all the planned features of 360, including everything that will be available in the short term and what's coming next for this offering. Some special bonuses that are available only to a small handful of people who choose to join with us in this first pilot group here, probably today. And then some example use cases, as well as some limitations. And then we'll go through some Q&A. My hope is that we're on here no longer than an hour. But obviously, depending upon how long the questions go, we might go quite a bit. So I'm checking out Michael Bourne's background. I hope that that's real, Michael, the ski slopes there. So as with so many things in GridPane, 360 has come about as a byproduct of us asking ourselves questions around what's missing, what's missing in the space. And this is a question that I've been sort of harping on for quite some time. And it's what I believe has largely always been missing from the managed hosting space. And it's the managed part, okay? So no matter which managed host you look at, they've all largely mastered the art of getting your money. But when it comes to actually making sure that you have peace of mind, making sure that you know that there's always going to be somebody there to take care of the problems, even when you're asleep, they haven't really nailed that part down. They haven't really nailed down the good night's sleep part. And so that's what we hope to do with this 360 rollout, okay? And so there's plenty of companies out there that will quote unquote manage things for you. And there's great software like GridPane that will also make the management or the self-management of all of your sites and all of your functionality super easy, but it's all boiled down to what happens when things break, and who's in charge at that point, okay? And so let's talk specifically about what 360 is and how we're going to hopefully give you that peace of mind and those deep night's sleep. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the customer spectrum. Okay, and what it is that we've recognized and what's been sort of driving this this desire to create this 360 offering. So I'm going to stop sharing this primary screen here, and I'm going to switch over to sharing my iPad screen, which we just tested a second ago. Hopefully that will work. Let's see. Okay, so can we all see that again? The XY axis here, thumbs up if we see it. Okay, cool. So basically across, we're very, very fortunate to have literally thousands of customers currently in nearly 100 countries. We're knocking on 100. And they all sort of fall in all different kinds of spectrums in terms of their backgrounds, their history, how much money they make, how many sites they manage, how they define themselves. But they really sort of live on this spectrum, ranging from people who don't really want to pay a lot of money, whether they're new to the business, they're in a developing country, they don't have enough clients yet, they just don't really have a lot of budget, all the way up to people who have very, very high budgets and they're coming to us from insane, really expensive managed environments, and everything in between. And then there's also just a big spectrum of people's willingness to learn. okay, and willingness to get better as a developer. And so we want to hopefully give something to everyone across this entire spectrum. And so we're going to be announcing some free cool things that we're doing inside of GridPane. No matter, even if you're just a free user, you're going to be getting some new cool stuff as a byproduct of all of these new cool things that we're going to do. But basically on the horizontal axis, we have what I would just call willingness to pay. Okay. And this is an important thing, that if you haven't identified the willingness to pay within your customer segments, I highly recommend digging into that. Okay. When you have customers that are sort of recalcitrant and they don't like paying on time, they don't like paying in advance, things like that, that's low willingness to pay. You want to try and avoid that if you can. And then on the vertical axis is sort of what I would say is technical ambition. Okay. Or just that willingness to learn new things. So you have willingness to pay and willingness to learn. Okay. And what we want for all of our customers, ideally, is we want people who live in this part of the spectrum. Okay. We want people who are growing their businesses, who are getting, who want more and more of our capabilities, but they also want to get really, really good at what they're doing. What we don't really want, sadly, because it's kind of incompatible with what we're trying to build as a company, is we don't want people who are both completely unwilling to learn and completely unwilling to pay anything. Okay. And again, if you have customers like that, you want to avoid them. If they won't do what it is that you try to advise them to do, and they won't pay for you to solve the problems for them, maybe they need to move on, maybe you need to move on. But what we really want to focus on is kind of this 10 out of 10, this ideal group out here, and getting those people what it is that they want. So it's the exact tools, it's the exact capabilities, it's the things that we're building at agency and enterprise and above. That's where we can have the most impact, both for that client, and then they also have obviously the most impact for us. The revenue that we generate from them is higher, but also the feedback that they get, the things that they ask for, they help drive the innovation on the platform. And so we want to go in this direction of people who are more willing to either pay for what it is that they just want it taken care of, or they're more willing to learn. Okay. And so that's really one of the big impetus behind 360 is we get these issues where people will come into customer support and we will show them a knowledge base article, for example. And if it's a certain type of customer, if it's a customer that lives out here, I erased everything. If it's a customer that lives out in that 10 out of 10 space, we hand them a knowledge base article and say, it's this thing right here. And they go, man, this is really good documentation. But if it's the wrong kind of customer, they go, well, I don't want to read any of this crap. Like, I don't want to deal with that. And so what we're trying to do is find a better and better way that we can both accommodate people who do want to learn and people who, maybe they do want to learn, but right now they just don't want to they don't want to go and read anything. Okay. And so that's what 360 is sort of all about. Instead of us showing you how to get better, it's, hey, why don't we just fix the problem for you, literally while you sleep sometimes, but then also give you the education so that when you want to, you can say, oh, well, I want to go and dig in on that problem because I do want to learn how to do it. But other times I just want to hit the easy button and have things resolved for me, and then tell me after the fact what you did. Okay. And so there's really this new idea that I've had about wanting to get every support interaction right every single time. Okay. And what I've realized is that there's this issue that exists inside of all of hosting. It's not just GridPane, it's all of hosting. And it's generally that people start in a hosting environment that's really, really cheap. Okay. They start at GoDaddy, they start at EIG, and they get a really, really shitty support experience. And so they just start to build this thick skin of not believing what the person is telling them. Okay. When they go into support, most of you, before you came to GridPane, if you went into support and you told them that everything was too slow, please somebody type in the chat, what would your last host tell you? What would they say if you went into SiteGround or you went into wherever and you said, hey, my site's too slow, what do I do? Okay. Anybody drop it into the, Frederick, exactly. Upgrade. buy a bigger box, get another plan, go up to the next plan. Okay. And yeah, it's your site. Well, unfortunately, a lot of times it is true. But at the end of the day, we don't have any incentive to tell people that they should get a bigger server because we don't make money that way. Okay. And so what we want to be able to create just more trust and more connection between us and the people that we're working with. Okay. And so what I realized is that no matter how strong a team we build in support, like let's say that this is our team. These are the WordPress warriors. Okay. This is my growing team of support people. No matter how good I make that team, and no matter how good I make our systems, okay, whether we're using Freshdesk, whether we have reams of documentation, whether we do Loom videos, whether we get on the phone, if we kill all of those things and we absolutely nail them down, but we don't have you, we don't have the client involved, then it sort of doesn't matter how well we do on these things. And so if somebody comes into support and they automatically are just upset, they're pissed off, they don't believe what it is that we're going to show them, then it doesn't matter how good we do, and it doesn't matter how well we have, you know, the process documented. It doesn't matter how well the systems are working out. They're just not going to be in. Whereas if our team's doing a good job and you're down for the ride, well, then we get coordination in here. Okay. We're both working on the exact same thing and we're trying to get there together. If we have a really good team, and I don't know if some or all of you noticed, we just hired this guy, Zach Stepik, who's an absolute beast. He's one of many people that are just sort of at this next level that we're going to be hiring over the rest of the year. If we do a great job with our team and we hire all the right people and we have great systems and great processes, well, then we get insanely high efficiency. Okay. We get tickets solved, hopefully on the very first try. We get faster learnings. We get a faster feedback flywheel, and ultimately things work better. And then if you as a client are enrolled in this journey and you're down for the system and the process and like this methodology, you know, like you agree to this, then you get something, we both actually get something that I think is really impactful, which is certainty. Okay. And if we can have all of those things together, if we can have coordination between us and you and your team, if we have efficiency between our team and our systems, and then we have, you know, that certainty that exists between you knowing that you're enrolled in the right thing and you're working with the right team, then we get a thing that I'm calling right now, every ticket, every time. We want every single ticket to be as close to flawless. Oh, wait, every ticket, every time. Not every ticket, every ticket. So that's where we want to land. And to do that, we need certain people to decide, yeah, I'm 100% along for the ride. Okay. And there's other things that have to happen. You know, I mean, there has to be, I mentioned, you know, you have to have enrollment. You have to agree that this is something that you want to do. You have to have good resources, be it our documentation, be it live training sessions like this. And then you also have to commit. You have to commit to wanting to be on this journey. And my hope is that many of you will. Okay. Many of you already have, just by being our customers. You do this every single day. Okay. So let's talk specifically now about how 360 sort of solves this, what 360 does. I'm going to go back to the presentation here. And skip a few slides because I was supposed to jump back and forth. Let's color. We already did the coloring. So make fix. Well, how do we make fix? Well, we do that 3 concentric circle thing I just showed you. We get you, we get our team, we get our systems. We all work together. Everybody goes home in a limousine. We did more coloring already. So what the hell is 360? Okay. It is, if you haven't guessed by now, it's what managed hosting always should have been. Okay. It's human beings, our team, standing by 24/7, 365, making sure that things are running smoothly, proactively, and fixing anything that goes bump in the night. Okay. And so what we've done over the last 3 months is we've taken sort of an exhaustive deep dive and looked at some of like the critical tickets that have come in from all of our users across all different, you know, spectrums and experience levels. And we've recognized that there's a whole bunch of shit that goes sideways that that our users, they're not seeing the notifications, they're not paying attention to the notifications, they don't look at the logs, they don't see that they changed their DNS, and so their SSL is 30 days away from failing, 29 days away from failing, counting down, and they're just not seeing that. And then things happen and they come in and everybody's upset and everybody's disappointed. And if we had been proactively monitoring those things far in advance, we can avoid the things, you know, that blow up, okay? And if they do blow up, our team is usually going to be the very best suited to actually resolve the issues before you even put in a ticket, okay? And so that's really what 360 is in a nutshell. Is it's taking the core competencies that we're building in our support team and extending it out to monitor all of your sites, all of your servers, all of the things going on inside of your self-managed environment, and just sort of extending what it is that we do for you so that you don't have to, number one, you don't have to come in and go, oh, well, now I have to read a 20-minute long knowledge base article. Like I don't have the time for that. I don't have the attention span for that. I just want a resolution right now. Show me how to fix it later, okay? We get these interactions where it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because we don't really have a model before today of being able to provide site level support where we can't go all the way in and read your logs for you. It's not cost, you know, it's not something that can be sustained for us to continue to do that kind of stuff. And so we've needed to create a model where we can do that, where we can say, oh, for these sites, we got you. We 100%, we're on top of these things so that not only does the customer not come to you and then you come to us, the things are resolved before you even know about it, okay, ideally. And so let's talk about some examples, okay? Here's one of my favorites. We already have lots of backups installed. You already have backups installed, but your client comes in and installs, let's say, Updraft's backups, okay? And they crank up to hourly, 7 days a week, backup everything, and then the drive fills up. Can anybody tell me in the chat here what happens when the drive fills up as a byproduct of your client installing something like Updrafts? Or maybe you've got a photography client and they upload like 28 meg raw images. Can anybody tell me what happens? So yeah, site, yes, Cameron, site goes boom. Specifically, what happens usually first is MySQL goes down, okay? The drive fills up, MySQL can't continue to log pages, and boom, I have to work on a weekend every time. Exactly. Okay. And so this is just one example of a scenario that not only will you not necessarily see because you're not always watching on it, you're not always up on exactly what your client's doing, but it's a situation where all you know is the site goes down. Okay. And then generally you're in such a panic that you go, I don't know what's going on. You're not going to then go look at Monit and then methodically work through a root cause analysis. You know, you're just going to go, bah, it's down, fix it. Whereas if we were proactively watching things, our team could be notified when your drive's at 75%, 80%, 85%, 90%, even, you know, all the way up to that critical cliff that you're about to drive off. And we could be not only reaching out to you, but resolving those things proactively before MySQL goes down, okay? My clients like to use all-in-one to generate a full site backup and then backups of those backups. Exactly. Nothing better than that. So what's another example? Well, your client installs a null copy of Revolution Slider. How many, show of hands, how many people have had a copy of Revolution Slider or similar? It seems like that was too close to home. Yeah. So they, you know, magically a copy of something nulled, but it always seemed like it was Revolution Slider. Your site gets hacked at 3 a.m. Okay. And as things are set up right now, we can advise you on these things, but wouldn't it be better if we just proactively were on it and we're automatically resolving things, you know, in a context like this? So don't let your clients, well, that's another good one. Don't let your clients install plugins. Don't let them log in. More examples. Okay. You start trending on Reddit. This doesn't happen a lot, but this is something that we help people out with all the time. And generally speaking, what happens is when you get a ton of traffic, like somebody tweets out to their 750,000 followers, hey, go buy my book. Usually you find out about it after your site has already been smacked in the face with a huge sledgehammer of traffic. And then you have to come in frantically begging for help? What if instead we noticed a significant spike in CPU utilization and PHP worker utilization, and we contacted you just right out of the blue and just said, hey, via SMS, ideally, hey, guess what? This box is about to blow up. Can we vertically scale it for you? Are you ready for this? Did you know that this was coming? That's a big one. Just being able to say, hey, what do I do when this happens? Now, right now, you could go into the Facebook group. Right now, you could reach out to support, but it's usually going to be reactive, not proactive. This is something that we want to help you be out in front of. Okay. Let's say right now, your box is already overloaded and you're not sure why. You may not even know that this has happened at all. Okay. You don't know why your box is running really slowly. Wouldn't it be nice if every single one of your boxes, if you chose to, you would know that we had looked at it and said, oh boy, you got to watch out for this. You got to watch out for this. You got to watch out for this. We need to scale this up. We need to change the PHP workers here. Now everything is running as it should. Okay. That's another thing that we want to be able to do, is just proactively be able to help you on a server by server and site by site basis. How about this one? Vultr status page is all green check marks. Okay. But what's actually going on? What's the reality? The reality is they're down. Okay. What if you could have already a completed checklist on our end that says, hey, Patrick, team, whoever, if for some reason an infrastructure provider goes down, if Vultr goes down one more time, please provision me a box in the closest geographical data center on DigitalOcean and recover my backups from the most recent possible time. And then let me know that you've done it. And then obviously when the box comes back up at Vultr, we can remediate there if there was potentially, data that was on that box that didn't get merged over in the backups or whatever. What if you could just have a team automatically doing that 24/7 in the middle of the night based upon criteria that you indicate, based upon criteria of if X, then Y, okay? And so basically there's 1,000 really good reasons that we can think of for people to have this really proactive, truly managed WordPress coverage. But in point of fact, and part of what it is that we're going to be learning over the next 30, 60, 90 days as we roll this out, the real value in this thing is the stuff that we can't think of. I can think of all of these examples of like, oh shit, that would be bad. But every single day we see a new, oh shit, that would be bad. And we know what we would do in those scenarios. Unfortunately, we can't just proactively do those things on our customers' behalf because they haven't given us agreement. They haven't given us permission to just take over on those things. Okay. And that's kind of where we want to go with all of this. So let's talk briefly about some of the places and some of the offerings that exist out there that I believe sort of check these boxes already. And let's get an idea of what those things cost and what their availability is. So if you haven't seen Pantheon's new pricing pages, I really like what they've done here. You can sign up for silver, but then you're just a bunny rabbit. You're just a rodent. I like that quite a bit. But then also I get the whole diamond, you're soaring through the air, but can we all agree that a tiger would absolutely eviscerate an eagle? Yes? Like who's on Team Eagle in this view here? Go ahead and drop in the chat. Oh, you're on Team Eagle? Okay. So I just recently found out about Diamond. We have somebody that's moving from Pantheon to us, and they're moving from another host to us. And they've been trying to get on Diamond for quite some time. You have to be invited to join Diamond, and it's 6 figures. Like it's sort of like an American Express Black Card. You have to be spending an insane amount of money with them. But if you do get invited, then you get what you see in the far right-hand column here. You get 24/7 top priority chat. You get 1 hour guaranteed SLA on tickets. You get 15-minute emergency on call. You get access to their dedicated Slack channel. And then they do pre-launch load testing and some other things like that. And so if you pay them enough money, Pantheon will invite you to give them another $100,000, and then you can get this, okay? And so while we have not pinned down exactly what we want our SLA to be on this, this is where we're steering, and we're going to give you more examples of what our aspirations are for this program. But we're really just going to be gauging based upon number of people that get involved, number of people that want it, and then just seeing how to properly staff for it as we test through things. Here's another good example of a top-notch enterprise offering. This is platform.sh. They have some really interesting pricing. If you sign up for their professional plan, you can test the platform out. You get less than 1 vCPU and you get 0.8 gigs of RAM, and that's $50 a month. If you want to go live, it's something like $150 a site minimum. But if you want a 1-hour urgent support SLA, basically if you want any support whatsoever, well, then now you're on enterprise, and that's $1,250 a month, billed yearly. And that includes 11 vCPUs and 16 gigs of RAM. And so if you want support from platform.sh, all you have to do is just give them $15,000. Is that right? Yes. And then they'll just start drawing down from that balance based upon the amount of traffic and utilization that you get. And then a little bit closer to home, this, if you haven't seen this before, this is Linode's managed service. You can basically add management to make sure that everything's working as it should be on any given Linode, and it's $100 per server per month. Okay, and I actually think that this is one of the most reasonable offerings in the space. And companies like Hetzner and things, other providers like that, they do similar stuff like this. They'll monitor a box for $100 a month. So what are we doing here? Let's get to the ye old obligatory value stack, which if you're wondering what it's going to add up to, it's down there in the bottom right. You can thank me for putting these slides together far in advance. So what we're going to do today, everything that we're discussing here today is basically the initial pilot of a few dozen people that want to kick the tires on this thing and want to help us shape what this thing can become. Okay, and so we're going to sell you something here in just a minute, some of you, and you're going to get all of these things. If you don't want to get on this and you don't want to be part of the pilot program and you don't want to interface with us and like help shape what it's going to become, help us determine that if X then Y stuff, this is all going to become available in the long run, probably 60 to 90 days from now, as a monthly offering. Okay, this right now is specifically the offer that we're going to talk about right now. So you get 1 server and up to 10 sites covered on that box. Okay, if you have more than 10 sites on a box, the long-term future price that we're looking at right now is $10 per site per month. Okay, and by getting in on this, you're locking that in. So for example, if you had 1 server with 23 sites on it, somebody can probably do the math. That would be $230 in a month for that server. If you are like Hubert, for example, he has 1 massive website, and I'm positive he's going to be jumping on this. He's going to have his 1 server, and he's going to have 9 extra sites on that server that he never installs on that server because he just has his 1 important production workload. So it's basically you get the server and you get the sites, but you can't mix workloads. Basically, you can't say on server A I only want half of these sites, on server B I want these 3 but not these 25. What we've discovered again and again and again is people will say, hey, we've got a problem with this site on this box, and we get on that box and take a look and realize no, it actually has nothing to do with that site. It's this other site that's on the same server that's completely screwing everything up. Okay, and so if you want us to be monitoring and maintaining and providing this 24/7 coverage on a given site, it has to be on a server that is indicated inside the platform, and all of the sites on that box have to also be covered. And so if you want to slice and dice these things, it's pretty simple. You have sacrificial server B, C, and D, and your production important shit on server A. Okay, so 1 server up to 10 sites. Something that we're going to be doing specifically just for people who get on this is we haven't announced it yet because they already were announcing too many other partnerships. But if you haven't heard of PatchStack, they are an interesting security monitoring. They do penetration testing, and they do proactive vulnerability patching. Okay, and we're going to be including this only for people that get in this first little cohort. We're only going to do this 1 time. This stuff, if you added this in, if you go straight to PatchStack and you go 10 sites, it ends up being $12 and something per site per month, and it adds up to $1,529 for a year. We're including that just baked in, okay? And you get that locked in still with that $10 per month per site pricing with us. And that's for the life of the account, okay? And so what that specifically is not only do we monitor all of your plugins to see, hey, these are out of date, these should be updated, but we take it even a step further using that patch stack capability where we say, okay, not only is that plugin out of date, but there's a known security vulnerability which applies to that plugin, and we can patch it for you dynamically, okay? So if any of you are the type of people that likes to wait to update certain things, you can continue to do that, but now you can do it in a way that you know with a fair level of certainty that that your things that definitely need to be upgraded, they will get upgraded automatically. Okay, and so we're including that. This is going to be kind of interesting for especially people who are not on developer. If you're on pro, as part of just this promotion, you are going to get access to multi-appy. So if you haven't seen that pushed into the platform, we just rolled it out within the last 2 weeks. This is basically capability within the platform for you to be able to have more than one, say, DigitalOcean API key. Right now, if you're on Pro, you have your 12 possible integrations, but you can only add one each. Okay, so you can't have 2 DigitalOcean ones. If you're on Developer, you have your allocation of them, but you can use them in any combination that you want, okay? By joining this special and being part of this sort of guinea pig squad over the next 30 days, 60 days max as we roll it all out and get all the kinks ironed out, you get access to multi-appy. You also get access to an additional 50 API integrations, okay? And so these are all things that people are going to be able to purchase inside the platform within really before the end of the month. We're rolling all these things in right now. The core capabilities there, we actually, the thing that's lagging is our ability to charge for them, but you're going to get an extra 50 API integrations. And so if you want to add a whole bunch of clients and have every single one of them have their own integration, you can do that. And that starts to creep towards the capability of like our agency instances. For example, if you're on agency, you already have a lot of API integrations, but you get more, obviously. Also, during the Q&A, remind me, Sean, to address, if you're in agency cohort number 1 and number 2, you do have special pricing that applies in all of this. And basically, we'll take care of you, long story short. With every single one of these, what we're going to do in the long run is when we roll this out as monthly, we're going to actually charge for every server onboarding. Okay. And the reason being, it's going to take us potentially 2-3 hours to look at all the mess that is already there and determine whether or not we're comfortable with that server being our responsibility. Okay. And we're going to charge for that because if we don't charge for it, we will definitely get people who will sign up, pay $100 for month 1, we'll do the onboarding, and then they'll cancel. And they'll basically use it just to get an audit. Okay. So by being part of this and or in the future signing up for annual, you'll actually get the server onboarding included. And then we're going to do a semi-annual health check as well. Okay. So roughly every 6 months, we're going to go on the box. We're going to look at all the configurations. We're going to make sure that everything is running as it should be. And then, give you a clean bill of health and or make recommendations based upon what it is that we're seeing. Obviously, we're getting notifications all of the time. So if your boxes are, trending in the wrong direction, we're going to be telling you before they explode. But it's not a bad idea to every, quarter, every 6 months to go in and dig in and see, make sure that everything looks good under the hood. In terms of this one, remote third-party uptime and monitoring, I put dumb dollars because I think it's really dumb that we're the very first people to ever think of doing this. Right now, if you have a site that goes down at almost any provider, if their internal monitoring systems are not working, say they also go down, you end up having to tell them that your stuff is down. Okay. And so we'll maybe try and see if we can find and I did a video about like my desk being on fire and like, why is it that I have to tell the person who's managing my desk that my desk is on fire? Anyway, we'll try and dig up that video, but I think it's dumb that if you're at Kinsta, for example, yes, they monitor your sites every 2 minutes to see if they're up. but they monitor it internally. They're just using Monit exactly the same as we are, and they make it seem like, well, that's a really big deal. Well, it's not. If the server's down, Monit is also down. And so this is something that I'm not going to put a price on it because it's dumb. It should just be the default for managed hosting all across the industry. And then really the last one, 24/7, 365 peace of mind. The idea here is that we are going to have an exact checklist, a playbook that you help us build that is for you, for your business, for your given set of clients. It's exactly what you would do at 3 a.m. if things blew up and you were watching things. Okay. And so we're going to go with the 11 million Bitcoins. And so the tally is nearly $6,000. Now, again, the base pricing, these things are all going to be available later. Okay. This is just a promotion, a special for people who want to get on right now and who want to have multi-API access, who want to have the extra integrations, who want to have all of these extras and get this locked in proactive vulnerability patching, which will be something that we charge extra for in the future. And basically just once again reaffirm that you're in the right place and that you want to be going along on the ride for us. So where do we get it? How do you sign up? There's already a handful of people that I think I don't know if they scraped our RSS feed, but there's already people who've bought. So you go to, let's see, gridpane.com/pre-order-360. It's $1,000. That's the sale. Okay. So basically you're getting something that in the future will cost a minimum of $1,200, and you're getting all of those extra things, and you're locking in that pricing. Okay. And so when you go there to check out, you'll see that it says $1,000, and you're locking in that plan, that annual renewal rate. You're also locking in that $10 a month price point. So what this is doing is it's basically granting your account access to this capability, which all of the people who sign up in the next 72 hours, you will all be onboarded, I believe, by the end of the month. Okay, we're going to start within the next couple of weeks, but certainly within the next 45 days, just depending upon complexities of your sites, your availability for us to get on the given servers that you want to work with. That's when everything will be turned on, but you're basically getting credits to activate the capability on a given server. So if you have a server with 3 sites on it, you would be able to add up to 7 more sites on that given box. If you wanted to add another server, you would be able to do so, but there's additional charges for all of those things. Okay. So you're pretty much just locking in the discount, the capability, and being part of being able to shape this thing. And so we're going to go into Q&A right now. I do know that, that a couple of people are going to definitely ask it, so I'll just say it again. It is up to 10 sites on this given one server. You can have more than that, but it costs more than that. Okay, every site is $10. You get up to 10 of them on a given server. You cannot mix and match monitored and non-monitored workloads. Okay, if you want to do that, you just put your not important sites on server B. You keep your important sites on server A, and we monitor all of those things. Okay. Other questions that I know will come up. Can you get less than 10 sites? Certainly you can get less than 10 sites, but it's still $100 per server. This is not to encourage you to necessarily put 10 sites on a given box. If you have a WooCommerce workload that's really, really important to you, you may decide, I want you guys to monitor that server, and it's only got 1 site on it, and $100 is fair for me. Okay. You could theoretically have 500 sites on a given box. That would cost, what, $5,000 a month if you wanted us to monitor all of that. And we'd be happy to do so. And probably what we would do is recommend that you not have 500 sites on that server, but that's your option. Okay. Yes, 1,000 per year. Yes, per year per server with this deal. You're locking that in. The other thing that you are doing is you are locking in the ability to buy this at $1,000 for every server, not $1,200, which is what this is ultimately going to be. There's not going to be annuals. The annual special will be $1,200, and you'll get the server onboarding and the server health check as included in that $1,200. Yeah, so Adam, to your question, we were going to do that if you're in cohort number 1, but that is going to get complicated. And ultimately what you're doing is you're buying credits. And so for agency users, your credits are just going to be calibrated differently. Okay. And so, so we'll share the specifics up with you on that, because the vulnerability patching, there's a hard cost on that. And that's a third-party cost that is not GridPane. So we can't give you 50% off on that, but we're passing the hard cost of that to you if you want it. And so basically you can buy for 1,000 and then your credits are effectively doubled, you know, because you're in cohort number 1, and you have that discount. Matt, same cost for additional servers. Yes. Let's see. I actually read this slide as account tigers. Yeah, the being on Oprah the next morning. You'd think if somebody was going to be on Oprah, like at all, that they would have told everybody for just weeks and weeks and weeks and been an obnoxious. I would be an obnoxious asshole about it. Like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing tomorrow, Cameron? Oh, I'm just going on Oprah. Let's see. $1,000, 10 servers. Hold on, 10 servers by, yeah. So if you want, well, so actually for right now, Max, if you wanted to, you could buy 10. Probably what we would do, what I would say is just buy 1 for right now. I don't care about the integrations, but the buying 10, the only catch that I would say with that is that it's not so much that I don't want you to have 10 servers in a row that we onboard before somebody gets access. It's that we want more of a dynamic range. Like your sites are all going to be very, very similar across all of your servers. And so if you're fine with the idea that we onboard you, then we do a couple other people, then we onboard your next one, I'll work with you on that. But yes, I'm fine with that. For now, just get the 1, and then reach out to me, actually ping Sean and just say, hey, this is what I think I want to do. And then we'll just get, you know, we'll get a customized schedule for you, and we'll get a customized billing set up for you. Can this cost 2,000? So to be honest, Michael, we thought about it. In the long run, I do believe what we're going to do is we're going to have more sort of tiered pricing. So eventually this will cost more to add, just, you know, to add it at all. To Pro will cost more. If you're on developer, it's a little bit better. If you're on agency, it's a little bit better. And then people who have, you know, thousands of sites on enterprise, this price is going to definitely go down. Okay. So if you're someone who currently has hundreds or thousands of sites, certainly reach out to me, because our bulk pricing is much better than $10 per site. And also if you're on your own dedicated agency instance, we can work with you a little bit in terms of slicing and dicing things, mostly because you have a big enough team and you have enough core competency in your team to not mix like really, really crap code with really, really important production workloads. So that's sort of the short answer to that one. Yep, same cost for additional servers. Ability to change servers. So, yes and no, okay? So the way that we have this right now is it's going to automatically try and keep track throughout the entire month how many total server days you have, or excuse me, site days. So let's say you have a server that it starts the month and it has 10 sites on it. So that's $100 for the month, okay? But at the end of the month, let's say you added roughly 10 sites over the 30 days, 1 every 3 days. At the end of the month, you now have 20, but you actually only had roughly 50, you know, as you progressed, you actually averaged 15. And so we're going to track all the way down to site days. And bill as close, as granularly as we possibly can. The biggest reason that I would have a problem with you changing servers with any frequency is that then we now have to onboard that whole box again, okay? And so if you're fine with the idea of getting whacked every single time you want to onboard a new server, you could do that. What I would recommend is we're going to have really strict, you know, really not strict, but we're going to have really kind of concise guidance around the idea of if you want to change from server A to server B, like, let's say you wanted to vertically scale, that's a situation in which we would say, okay, yeah, yes, you can switch there, because the clone feature is going to copy all the exact same configurations. And so long as you give us Scout's honor that you haven't injected a bunch of malware onto the new server, then you could switch in that context. But if you just said, I've got 50 sites over here, and then I've got 50 sites over here that are completely different, I want to switch, we would have to charge an onboarding fee for that. Let's see, Hubert. If GP moves sites to a new server, there's the question of potentially changing IPs, which requires extra access for GP staff. Can you elaborate on that one a little bit, Hubert? So just for your context, when you change servers, so long as it's in the UI, we automatically attempt to add our SSH key, like our teleport access. And so it should automatically work. But if you have a more specific question.
Yeah, I was thinking, in case you use like a proxy, the proxy needs to know about like where the origin is. And usually that's not something that GP might have access to.
I see what you're saying. So, so you would theoretically, well, I see now Fastly, you would theoretically want our team to have delegated access to your proxies, to Cloudflare and Fastly.
Yeah, because I'm not sure that you can do all that stuff via API. I think, you know, potentially you could do it with Cloudflare. I don't think you've looked at that for Fastly yet, although I'm probably the only person using it.
Yeah. So in your case, because we do want to integrate Fastly further, the short answer is we would work with you on that. And we would probably, I'm not sure what they call it inside of Fastly, but like GoDaddy calls it delegated access. Right. So long as you could, like, what I would not be comfortable with is if we have to have your login. Like that.
Oh yeah. No, so they have an API, and I'm pretty sure we could create like a token of some sort.
Yeah. So long as it's secure and it's us and it's, and it's known, you know. And also, I mean, we're part of all of this is basically your specific playbook is going to be different from everybody else's, you know. Yeah. And part of what we want to do, like, we would love to be able to say in every single scenario that like there's an exhaustive 39-page document, but a good analogy to think of is when you call 911, the person on the other end basically has their logbook that it's like, oh, they're choking, they flip to that page, and they have their set criteria to try and talk them through the Heimlich maneuver, basically. We can't be a surgeon for everything, but we can certainly say, okay, these are the 4 criteria that Hubert says, if this, then this, you know. And then if it's all the way to the origin server's down, Fastly's down, Godzilla has leveled the city, then all we can do is just text you and say, hope the flight went well. Our hands are tied, you know. Yeah. So. Okay, great. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, Zach, to your point, so long as, if you're just vertically scaling a server, that's not a problem. And what we would want in the context of sort of this tighter, you know, relationship is that, you know, we had a scenario where the Oprah thing happened to a client of ours, and then he comes in and he's like, oh my God, this is, you know, help. It's the book launch thing on our blog. We would like to know, ideally, as far in advance for things like this. We want to be proactively working with you to make sure that, you know, that you're getting the most out of our team that you possibly can. Okay. And so, let's see, Sean, you mentioned resizing servers DO as an example. Yeah. So here's a quick example there, Max. Like, you could give us delegated team access theoretically to your project. And what I would recommend is in that scenario, let's say, well, the way that I would do it, and this is, again, part of what we're trying to do, is I would say, okay, get a dedicated, get a floating IP in that data center, and then give us delegated access. And if you say, hey, in the event that XYZ happens, I want you to vertically scale the box, we would build a new server automatically through the UI inside your account. And then we would go into our delegated access for your DigitalOcean account, and we would switch the floating IP to that other server. Does that make sense? maybe thumbs up, or just let me know if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that answers it. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so again, we wouldn't, we're not doing, weirdly, we've had people who've asked us for like, can you be like, oh, what's the word? Like, it's morbid, but if I die, can you be in charge of X, Y, and Z and get the passwords to whoever? We're not there yet. I have actually thought about finding a law firm that is sort of sassified in that context. And being able to offer something like that, because that literally happened to Ken. He hit me up out of the blue and scared the shit out of me because he was rushing to the hospital with a blood clot or something. So we're not to the level of sophistication and complexity where we're going to be. We're going to notify your next of kin. But if it's sort of a formulaic if X then Y, and we can effectively fit your entire desired playbook in a single sheet of paper, ideally even less than that. If a plugin is a prime example, if a plugin is broken, disable the plugin. That's going to be default on for pretty much everybody. If the plugin's broken, disable it. I'd rather the map thing be broken than the entire website be down. So that's a good example. Trying to confirm now, we're investing by locking in onto the 1K rate per additional server going forward. I have single site servers, so I need to figure out how this fits in with the offer. I can see needing to add new servers as I grow. Trying to forecast. Yes. So the best the price is ever going to be is this. Okay. Just as we do with everything that we've ever released. The first customers in always get the best price. And so you're locking in that price, that $1,000 per server per year price. Everybody, if you wait 3 months, no big deal. It's $1,200 instead of $1,000, and it equates to $100 per month and $10 per site per month. But hopefully that helps you, Sean, as far as your forecasting, as far as your modeling. You would be able to add that stuff in, and all of these things right now are going into the UI. The capability in terms of our monitoring, the capability in terms of us having things categorized inside of Freshdesk, that's largely there. It's just us adding in the billing capability inside the UI. That's the only thing that we really have to go through next. You mentioned resizing servers. Yeah, answered that one. Will GP ever support horizontal scaling in the UI or only on 360? So we are going to offer horizontal scaling. It will not be related to or dependent upon 360. I would recommend it probably for a horizontal scaling workload. But it's not a super high motivation for us right now, to be honest, because the number of workloads that I've seen that actually necessitate it is very, very, very exceedingly small. The guy that we're helping, who's going to be coming from Pantheon, he has a workload where it's the very first one that I've ever seen where I thought, yeah, you can't have a vertically scaled box be big enough to handle the burst that gets. And so that's really the biggest lag on it, is a bunch of people say they want it, but if I said, yeah, you can have it, it's $1,000 per site per month, suddenly everybody's ambitions would wilt, and that's really, if you go and look at that Pantheon example again, you'll see on the far right side, they say elite sites only. Elite sites start at something like $12,000 or $15,000 a year prepaid. And it's worth it because you can handle absurd like Black Friday levels of traffic whenever you want to. But yeah, it's sort of, people ask us, why don't we have load balancers in? Like that's a feature, not a bug, because most people don't need it. That's a really much needed service. I agree. My solution is giving my brother a password that gives him access where I store my, oh, you're talking about the hit by a bus policy. Max is muted for a quick call. Yeah, I mean, it's not fun, but I have my envelope of stuff that's in the house, and my sister knows where it is if for some reason things get wild at a WordCamp. Can the credit be spread across the sites at $10 per site per month without the server constraint? But it would make much more sense. So no, your example, we would potentially, first of all, you're on agency, so there's the potential for us to be able to build something more bespoke based upon your requirements. I also know that your code standards are very high, and I know that your consistency across your configurations is very high. And so what we've already envisioned and what we see happening is there's going to be servers that we'll go to onboard and we'll say, okay, we can onboard this, we can take this, but because of that one site, this server doesn't get the same SLA, or this server doesn't get, the exact same guarantees, and sign on the dotted line that you understand that this is dangerous, or we may actually just say, we may have to refund somebody because we'll take a look at their box and see like, oh my God, these are all trash heaps. We want nothing to do with this. I highly recommend you fix X, Y, and Z, and then maybe come back to us when you have healthier code bases. Can you touch on single site boxes for our most important sites that work best? The 10 site framework is somewhat frustrating. So yeah, that one's a bit tricky. And I think where you would be benefited, Max, is as we scale this offering up, as we add more of these things, as your individual account has more, we're certainly much more willing to work with you on that. Right out of the gate, I look at it as just directly mapped to what Linode would be charging for, them managing one box. Because that's really what we're doing. The sites are there, and we're monitoring for uptime of those sites, and we're monitoring for logging, and we're monitoring all kinds of things like that. But really, we're watching server health, first and foremost, because you can't, if you get hyper granular and you're just focused on a site and you miss the forest for the trees, which is the box is actually overloaded because it has too many things going on, then you miss it. Okay. And so it really is sort of server monitoring first, and then the sites on top of that. But if you're, again, like, I think the pricing on this is going to go down to as low as $3 a site, depending upon scale, like hundreds, thousands of sites. But obviously, if you had many, many, many servers that you wanted us to monitor, we could work with you on that pricing as well. So the short version is, it may make sense for us to just follow up in the next couple of weeks and just plan something kind of bespoke based around your specific needs, so long as you're willing to work with us. As always, we're willing to work with you guys. It's easy to empathize with the majority of experts will say isolate. Yeah, even Patrick will tell you to put a Woo site. One site isn't worth $100. My single, yeah. So I mean, that's the thing, Michael. I mean, we want to, as much as possible, be helping people that their clients are doing 7-8 figures. Like, where we can have the most impact is if your client has an 8-figure WooCommerce business, and you're currently getting throttled completely, and not like speed-wise, like you're currently getting beat up on pricing at a Kinsta, for example, that's where we have the biggest impact, And I think one of the things that we've realized is that where we're headed to, especially with this offering, is a layman would look at this and they would go, well, now this is more expensive than Kinsta. And it's like, yeah, if you have no traffic, this is more expensive than Kinsta. But if you have a lot of traffic, it's still a screaming bargain by comparison, and so we want to balance out that one single site for $100, that site might not pay you $100. So obviously it doesn't make sense. But it obviously could be motivation for you to charge them more. Noam, so you are on agency, and so we have an allocation of 20 spots available for people who want it on agency, and we're in total we're going to take about 50 people for this first and only group, and then onboard all those people over the next month or so. We're thinking of roughly one person every day, or excuse me, 1 to 2 people every single day. So we're thinking about a 45-day rollout, and then it'll be available, with the future pricing that I've sort of already laid out. $100 per server. You obviously being in, I think you're in cohort 1, so your pricing is different. Yeah, if you came in late, so I'll back up here. I'll back the slides up. Basically, what 360 is our full-time monitoring and manual remediation of things that blow up in the middle of the night. Okay, let me actually stop this, jump back to this slide, play this slide. Let's go into present mode. Let's stop this. So this is what you're signing up for potentially today. You are getting one server with up to 10 sites on that server, proactively monitored by us. We're adding in proactive vulnerability patching, which is actually going to be part of our 360 Plus offering. In the long run, where this is going, where this entire 360 suite of offerings is going, is all the way into white labeled care plans. That's the future of this thing. But this first version is basically us monitoring your server, monitoring all the sites on a given server, proactively taking action based upon a playbook that we help build with you. You get access to multi-API, you get 50 additional API integrations. Number 2, 3, and 4 are only a part of this promotion, okay? When this offering is made available publicly a couple months from now, those things are not going to be added in. This is the bonus you get for helping us sort of kick the tires on this thing. You get a comprehensive server onboarding. That's where we take a deep dive on the existing server in question that we're going to monitor, and we make sure that it's not a complete trash heap. You get 6 months later, you get a health check. We're getting constant updates. Like we're getting your Monit Slack notifications directly into our private Slack channel. You get redundant third-party uptime monitoring, which is dumb. It should just already exist across all kinds of managed providers. And you get 24/7, 365 peace of mind. This also gets you just escalated support. Okay, and so we talked a little bit about the example Pantheon SLA. We're going to share the recording of all of this. You can go and check that out. Our goal is to have an SLA that is industry leading, world class, sort of like you have to pay thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to get access to this level of engineering with this level of SLA. And the big thing is that we're proactively doing these things. So you don't have to come in and tell us that a site is down. Ideally, we would see that something was going sideways and fix it even before the site went down. Or if the site went down, we would immediately go, oh, it's that plugin. We're disabling that plugin. Go ahead and update Adrian and let him know so that when he wakes up hours later, this is why this happened. Okay. Mikhail, this is, if you go to the checkout page, Sean or Steve, please drop a link in there. What you're doing is you're basically locking in your access for this, and you're locking in server pricing. And so it's annual. So you're paying $1,000. If you only had one server that you wanted monitored and you only had up to 10 sites on that box, then you would never pay anything more than that $1,000. It would renew every year. Okay. And when you go to the checkout page, you'll see that it is annual. Okay. If you have more than 10 sites on a box, or you have more than one box, then the price goes up commensurate with that. So every additional server right now, until you start getting into bulk pricing, every new server is another $100, and it's up to 10 sites on that box. If you wanted to have 20 sites on that box, you could, but then it's $10 per site per month above the 10, okay? So a server with 20 sites on it would be $200 a month. Okay. And now you've also, in this hypothetical scenario, you've already paid the $1,000. So you've already locked in the one server and the 10 sites. If you had 10 more sites on that box, you would pay an extra $100 on a monthly basis. Okay. So as you scale going forward, you pay monthly as you add things on. And we covered a little bit, we do down to the number of sites on the box every single day. And so you're going to see it's really, really granular billing. So if you add a site to your box, and then you pull it down, you're not gonna pay $10 because you just happen to be experimenting and playing with things. Okay, like we're gonna try and keep track as close as possible. So the snapshot failover, that scenario is kind of tricky because it is actually two different servers. So even though it's theoretically the same configurations, it's now us theoretically logging in and doing something totally different at DigitalOcean and logging in and doing something totally different at Vultr. And maybe those playbooks don't align. Maybe our access doesn't align. So the short answer is we're still sort of trying to figure out how we want that one to work. Okay. Yep, there's the link there. gridpane.com/pre-order/360. We're going to send out an email probably over the weekend. If we get bombarded on this thing, then obviously we will stop and we will just let you know, hey, you are number 67. And so, yes, you can get this. You can claim this offer if you want, but now we're backlogged this far. Okay. And if you don't want to wait, then here's what I'll say right now. I'll go on the record. If you don't want to wait that long, we will refund you, but we will still let you keep the deal. So basically, you're taking a chance on us, and so we will extend the special out. And if it looks like you're going to have to wait too long, then we'll hold your spot, but we'll send you a refund until we actually can onboard your site. Okay. So future costs will be $1,200. Correct. So if you wait, so actually the future cost, if you wait 90 days, hypothetically, you'll be able to add this into your account, and you'll have two options. You can add it as monthly, and so it just adds $100 a month, but then you have to pay to get your server onboarding. You have to pay for us to spend the 2-3 hours going through everything. If you pay annual, so you pay the $1,200, then you get your health checks, you get your comprehensive onboarding, and you get your server health check included. But the people that get on this, they're locking in $1,000 per server, not $1,200, and they're locking in all of these other additional bonuses. And the key one here that definitely we will be charging more for is number 2. So that is, we are proactively monitoring all of your plugins and themes and seeing not only whether they're out of date, but whether there's a known security vulnerability applicable to that one plugin. And if so, we're proactively patching it. Okay. Let's see. I think we've got everything. Did I miss anything? Oh, wait. How far will you go on audits, code review, monitoring period to see current health? Wondering where you draw the line saying no to coverage. For example, I have sites with all custom themes. How do I get that across the line? So the short answer to that one is, if it's kind of batshit, we're probably going to say, hey, let's come up with something that we feel is both mutually fair. I suspect that your code bases are largely similar, though. Across, they're similar in that context, but they're not wildly, it's not like hyper custom over here and then hyper custom over here. It's completely different. Or maybe you just want to jump on and ask your question specifically, Michael, as far as how far down the rabbit hole we go. So there's more options with those on agency. Will there be wiggle room? So right now, basically the people that are on, there are some people who are on agency that got in as part of a pilot program that we did many, many months ago. Those people have access to just different discounts. They don't have access necessarily to better capabilities. All of these capabilities right now, everything that you're seeing here is the same across every account type. Okay. They just, agency users, for the most part, just get access, if they're in one of those cohorts, they just get access to slightly different pricing. And so in the long run, for example, on developer, you already have access to multi-appy. You're going to have more multi-appies baked in than Pro does. And so number 3 is not quite as useful for developers, but number 4 definitely is, because now you're getting an additional 50 API integrations. Does proactive patching rely on that plugin author? No. So this active patching, this is the actual code snippets itself. Okay. And so this is Patch Stack is the company. Again, you can go straight to them and say, I want 10 sites. And then that's how you'll find that number, the $1,529.04. And so for the most part, ideally, you would want the plugins to be patched by the author, because then you have alignment between the capability and the security. But yeah, it's proactive monitoring of the code snippets themselves. And this is all done by independent security researchers that we're basically, part of what we're doing is funding the Patch Stack Red team and getting access to that team, and then using that for this proactive vulnerability monitoring, and then the patching, which has a hard cost for us, which is why that number 2 there is important. And it's very valuable in my opinion. Yeah, if you have Patch Stack, then you know kind of what I'm talking about there. I didn't know there was an agency, so I'm catching the difference. So yes, so agency is on the pricing page now. It's sort of in between developer and enterprise. And if you're interested in that, you can reach out to us on that. And then that is actually still separate from this, but if you want things like white label, that's what agency's for. Since there's option. Okay, I think we've got everything. Affect performance. If we're already using antivirus or anti-malware tool like VirusDie. So the interesting thing, Gnome, is that VirusDie and PatchStack, I see them as sort of like Pepsi and Coca-Cola right now. And we actually have accounts with both. And in the long run, we're going to be making both of them available under this. And so I can't really speak to one being better or worse. In terms of efficiency, this is not proactive malware scanning. This is actually looking at all of your plugins, looking at the version that you have, and then seeing whether or not there's a known security vulnerability for that plugin. Okay, we already have Maldet and ClamAV and those things on the box. Static analysis, correct. 10 licenses for PatchStack. I think I just did it the $12 times 10 times 12. So that's how I came up with it. Gotcha. Okay. I think we're good for now. If we have any other questions, drop them into the thread. I'm going to have Sean update the thread by theoretically 8 or 9 tonight, so everybody can see whether or not it's closed out. I haven't even remotely checked my email or anything else, so I've got no notifications, so I have no idea if anybody even wants this thing yet. But we did already have a handful of people that bought before we even started. And so any chance you can agree for a host with BitNinja running on it? Probably. We have had issues with BitNinja in the past. But assuming that that's not going to conflict with what we see on the box, and assuming that the box is sufficiently sized, then we will work with you. So next batch of merch, we might have hats that say 360. We might. My hope, we had boxes and boxes of merch ready to go to Portugal, and then back here in St. Louis in the States. And of course, all those things are canceled. But if you attended the Hosting MBA Intensive earlier in the year, we are planning on, theoretically, fingers crossed, maybe having the second Hosting Intensive in person, both virtual and in person. And so we would love to potentially see some of you. You're in Canada, aren't you, Michael? So like we can't come there. You can't. We're plague rats, or I don't know. I don't know which one it is. Yeah, have a great, you all have a great day as well. Any questions, just add them into the thread there, and we'll make sure that the recording goes out ASAP. And we look forward to seeing all of you in there. I think that we're going to run the first sort of open office hours on this thing as early as 1 week from today. And that will largely depend on how many people get in over the next 72 hours. Whether or not there is sufficient interest for this. And then also, I imagine there's going to be some, well, what if this, and we'll decide those things internally. So if it makes sense, then we will update everybody who gets in, and we'll do another one of these next Friday, but it'll just be closed, a closed session. So yeah, that's that. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, and we will catch up with you soon. Cheers, everybody.